you know, the early part of the success is so much fun because the first two Sabbath albums were great fun because it was all new. It was all new, and we all had such a laugh, man. You know, and then all of a sudden it becomes deadly serious, and people start telling you what you should and shouldn't be doing and what. And it's always the big. I mean, and if anyone is listening to this, you know, if you crack the egg, man, you enjoy those first few years of them because you know you never recapture them again. You know, I've been very lucky, man.
Black Sabbath and Paranoid were quite quickly recorded. Black Sabbath was done in 2 days, and Paranoid was five days to a week. It took us to do that, finish it. But Massive Reality was quite a different thing. That took a lot longer. That's when we started getting into long time for us. It was going into weeks, and oh my God, this is taking a bit long. We tried. There was one particular track that Bill couldn't get right. I think it was Under the Sun or something it's called. And we went to about 3 or 4 different studios because couldn't get the vibe in them days. I don't know how we got to that, but...
Great to know that's you coughing on Sweet Leaf.
It was. I mean, that was, again, an accident. Ozzy brought me a joint out, and I was doing an acoustic bit, and I nearly choked myself, and they had tape in it. And everybody thought it was highly hilarious. And I thought, oh, yeah, why don't we use that on Sweet Leaf?
The Black Sabbath album that means the most to me is this one right here, Black Sabbath's third album, Master of Reality. Tony Iommi, the band's guitar player, in my opinion, never sounded better than on this record. He sounds great anyway, but on this record, his tone is it's like lava. It's incredible. The rhythm section is elastic and intuitive. Geezer Butler and Bill Ward, my favorite rhythm section in rock and roll. They're in Black Sabbath, and they are magnificent on Master of Reality.
Everybody, welcome to episode 3 of my Black Sabbath album deep dive series. Today I'm talking about their third studio album, Master of Reality. This was released on July 21st, 1971, and it was the first album where the band actually had some significant time to write and develop and record a new batch of songs. And to be truthful, by this point, it seems like the songwriting well had kind of run a little bit dry. What you have here, you have 6 legitimate full songs, and you have 2 Tony Iommi instrumentals. But nonetheless, the additional time that they had to record and write meant that they also had some time to experiment. And one of the most notable things about this album is that Tony Iommi, because he found it very painful due to the fact that 2 of the tips of his fingers had been removed as a result of that factory accident, he was finding it very painful to play the guitar with the strings very tight. And so on this album, he down-tuned his guitar. And as a result, Geezer Butler also had to down-tune his bass in order to be able to play along with Tony. And this was really the genesis of doom metal and stoner rock and truthfully grunge as well. I hear a lot of Soundgarden on here, what eventually would be Soundgarden, Nirvana. A lot of grunge bands, I think, took this album as the template for that sound. And Tony Iommi has said that he certainly appreciated that the band was afforded the opportunity to experiment in the studio and expand their sound a bit. He kind of missed that spontaneity of the first two albums, where they only had like a day or two to knock out these songs, and there was no time for bullshit. They just went in and they killed it in the studio. And sometimes when you have a little too much time, there's the opportunity for self-indulgence. I don't think that's the case here. I think this is one of Black Sabbath's most gratifying albums. Still not my favorite, but certainly absolutely in my top 5, as I think it probably is with most people. So let's talk about the songs on this album. So the album starts off with Sweet Leaf, which next to Got to Get You Into My Life is the greatest song ever written about pot, marijuana. Apparently Tony Iommi had this pack of cigarettes that he got in Dublin, and it was advertised as the sweetest leaf, and that inspired him to write a song. But all the bands were heavy pot smokers, heavy marijuana users at this time, and so it was really a reflection of what their lifestyle was like during this period of time before they moved on to harder drugs. But it's got a great riff, and like most of the songs on this album, it has this lumbering, heavy, fat guitar sound that defined Black Sabbath. Definitely one of the highlights on this album. The next song is After Forever, which I remember being baffled at the fact that these are Christian lyrics from Black Sabbath. Now, Geezer Butler was raised Catholic. He had a strong religious upbringing, and so I think you see that reflected in the lyrics of this song. But also, I think this was a reaction against people who were accusing Black Sabbath of being devil-worshipping Satanists, which was not true. Certainly, they played up the occult elements that I think attracted them or kind of gave them their identity, but in no way were they devil worshippers or Satanists. And so you have a song like this, which is kind of like, look, that's not what we're about. I tend to think this is probably the weakest song on the album, not because of the lyrical content, but just the fact that, the riff is just okay. It's a decent song, but I think in terms of the other songs on this album, it's just not their greatest. The next song is an instrumental, Embryo, and it kind of reminds me of some sort of like medieval Renaissance era tune. It's very brief, and I think this is part of the experimentation. I'm not sure what Tony Iommi, what effect he's getting on his guitar with this one, but it's enjoyable nonetheless. Then one of Black Sabbath's greatest early songs, if not the best song on this album, Children of the Grave, a full-on heavy metal onslaught. A great kind of a staccato chugging rhythm on this one. Great lyrics and a great vocal from Ozzy. One of those iconic Sabbath songs. And I think a song as good as anything that they had on their first two albums. Side 2 opens up with another gentle instrumental from Tony Iommi. and then straight into Lord of this World, which again is just another heavy beat you over the head slice of heavy metal. Again, you have the themes of dark and light and good versus evil, God versus Satan. But the riff on here, how fat and how insanely great is that riff? And this is what I'm talking about, is laying the template for grunge rock. Countless number of grunge bands took this sound and went all the way to the bank. Critics did not get this sound at all. They felt it was kind of like brainless rock, mindless rock. They just could not appreciate it back in the day. But of course, like all great music, sometimes it takes a while for people to adapt, for people to really appreciate how great it is. And Lord of this World is one of those songs. Then Solitude, which I feel like they felt, Planet Caravan was such a successful experiment from the second album. Let's go mellow again with Solitude from this album. And again, I like this one too. I love Planet Caravan. I love Solitude. It's just so different from anything else on this album.
stop crying since you went away. You went away. You went away.
And the fact that they were willing to take a risk and go so slow and gentle and have a song like this. But really, when you're smoking pot, this is exactly the type of song that you probably want to chill out to. Then another standout track, Into the Void, and this might be my favorite Black Sabbath Tony Iommi riff in their entire discography. hear Alice in Chains, you hear Soundgarden, you hear, at times Stone Temple Pilots, all the great grunge bands adopted this sound. It's so heavy, it's so commanding, it's so powerful. I don't need to tell you that, I know. But just a great, great standout track. Out of all things, I think space exploration, which, Black Sabbath, they didn't care. They were going to cover whatever topics came into their sphere of influence. But this is just an outstanding album. Yeah, it's brief. It's almost, if you want to call it, without the covers, it's sort of like their Diver Down, and that you really only got 6 substantial tracks here and 2 instrumentals, but it's so powerful. The songs on here are so great. It stands alongside any great Black Sabbath album. So anyway, let me know what you think of this record. Am I giving it too much praise, or maybe it's your favorite, maybe it's your least favorite? Let me know in the comment section. Hope you're doing great, and take care.